moment, and otherwise, if the answer to those questions is no, Ben has a really good chance of being our invitational champion.
As we do see both players are underway here. We have a Temple Garden here from Ben to begin, and we're going to see a Hinterland Harbor here from Reid. So we are underway here. Let's see what 2-drop Ben has, and it is a Mayor of Everbrook.
Very good. Potent threat on its own. Reid's going to just give himself a little reminder. What's also noteworthy is Reid is the 8th seed, and he's 3-0-6. He's 3-0 both of his rounds, which means he's gone second in every single game he's played so far through the elimination rounds.
Yeah. That's actually true. Actual every game.
Every game
as I think about it. And you see reading Mayor of Everbrook, you actually see it on the screen for you guys as well. It's a card that's starting to pick up and play a little bit now, Patrick. And, you know, it was one of the best rares in its limited format. It doesn't really surprise me to see it here in Constructed now, too. It's all upside.
And it's very threatening against Reid's control deck.
As we are going to see an Augur of Bolas here be quite the roadblock there for the Mayor of Everbrook. One card that Reid just did play for his second land, Alchemist Refuge. I've never seen it be so good in my entire life as I did just see it in that last match as we see Azorius Charm here from Reid.
Yeah, I would. I gotta imagine in Reid's hands that thing is capable of some fantastic sequences.
Incredible the way it made Jonathan Job change the game as we see an old school Temple Garden, and we're going to see Mayor of Everbrook flipperoo.
So this on its own, and Ben knows about the Azorius Charm, obviously in Reid's hands.
Yeah.
Assuming Reid has white mana, Ben's got to be very careful with this Mayor, but it does give him the potential to have a durable threat on its own, and maybe give him enough wherewithal to withstand one Wrath. Because if he can just ride this Mayor and induce a Wrath on its own, then maybe his backup Restoration Angels and Huntmaster of the Fells, or maybe a Curve of Humans, Champion the Parish after the fact, what have you. He might be able to reload and survive one Wrath.
As we do see Ben contemplating what he wants to do this turn. It looks like he's thinking about Selesnya Charm, and that's exactly what he's going to do here, just to make a 2/2 token on the end step. Ben does untap and draw, and we see his draw step for the turn, Avacyn's Pilgrim. And here comes the 3/3 along with the 2/2 Vigilance. Ben is going to be able to get in for 3 points of damage here. And we'll see if he's going to play a spell or just be content with, you know, the token being made there from the flipped Mare and just kind of build his army that way instead of actually casting spells.
Yeah, it appears that Ben has Gavany Township in his hand. So if that's the case, I would be surprised to see him add much more to his board. Although I'm not positive that I'm seeing it correctly. Because Township plus those two permanents is... Alright, he's going to try to stick a Huntmaster here. It's in. And he's going to put Reid to the test here. Even if Reid does have a... we're going to think twice. Even if Reid does have a 4th land, there's no guarantee it comes into play untapped.
As you see here, Ben puts the other wolf token into play because of the Mare being flipped as another wolf on the end step. So, again, Ben has created a nice army here. This is kind of putting Reid in a situation of Supreme Verdict or no.
Yeah, he's putting Reid to the test very quickly here.
Because even though we do know that Reid has that Azorius Charm right now not looking so great. I mean, it's fine, but it's not anything spectacular, honestly.
Yeah, Ben has plenty of pretty interchangeable knuckleheads in play at this point.
Yeah.
It's hard to break up this board with just an Azorius Charm.
And the other thing that Reid needs to keep control of, because I think if he had the Supreme Verdict, I think we would have seen it by now. Leads me to believe that he doesn't have one. It could be wrong, obviously. But one thing that Reid does need to keep in mind is that Huntmaster, if he doesn't play a spell, will flip as well. As we are going to see a Detention Sphere here.
And Detention Sphere on that Mare is a very strong indicator that Reid is without Supreme Verdict. Ben draws his card. And there's Gavany Township, so... Gavany Township, very bad for Reid here, as it means that his Augur dies in combat to whatever it blocks instead of being able to just stay in front of something. It also means that Ben doesn't have to really make a play this turn to advance his board, and that allows his Huntmaster to play. So this is going to be 9 damage from the unblocked, now 3 threes.
I'd say that
flip the Huntmaster and shoot Reid for 2 more. And now we're definitely Supreme Verdict or Terminus or
Or it's over.
Yeah, or bust.
Yeah. Even Thragtusk right now isn't even really going to save him. He's going to go to 11, get to block, and then take lethal on the crackback. So Reid shifting through his options here. Now we know, and I know that the first match that you covered yesterday, Reid, he expertly played his way to a think twice into Terminus. So
yeah, here we go.
I feel like we're going to see a little something here, maybe.
All right. I assume Ben will simply attack for lethal and put Reid to the test. And here we go.
And we are going to see the think twice
Reid.
flashback. Can you do it again, sweetness?
No.
I can't. So Ben Wienburg takes down game 1 without Champion of the Parish, without Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. Just a decent draw, really.
Yeah, and he had, I mean, the mayor provided a lot of offense. The Gavney's Township was excellent there.
Yeah. And,
you know, Reid, like we said, if he doesn't find a sweeper, certainly game 1, he's way behind. He's leaning very heavily on those Wraths to keep up against these beatdown decks. So as we move along to the sideboard here, I'm sure we're going to see Ben Wienburg again make good use out of his Nevermores, as they were excellent for him against Todd Anderson in the top 8. I didn't get to see, like I said, the Matt Nass match, but I presume they were brought in and were also excellent there.
Likely quite good there as well. I didn't get to see that match either, but we cut into game 5 and that's just about it. But yeah, I assume that it was very good there. Naming Supreme Verdict, naming Sphinx's Revelation, 2 cards he's going to want to name in this matchup as well. But my friends, it is trivia time. And trivia time means that we are going to give away a full year.
1 whole year.
Of premium. Patrick, explain the rules and I will ask the question.
So Cedric is going to ask a question for which an answer will be fairly easy to find.
I'll make it easy. Adrian's last round was like playing wiffle ball. It was so easy. So I'm going to make it a little bit more difficult than that because we're giving away the full year, but continue.
You will post that answer, whatever the answer to the question is, on Twitter, hashtag SCGPremium, and out of the correct answers, we will draw 1 at random, and that person will receive a free year of Star Sea Games Premium.
That is correct. Pretty easy.
Yeah, it's not hard. You have to have Twitter, basically.
And if you don't, what are you doing? Twitter's awesome.
Anyhow, you said that you had a question.
So taking a look at Ben's deck list here, he has 3 copies of a land that adds colorless mana and does a little something else too. That really helped him win that game and make it so that he did not have to commit any other threats to the board. Now that land does a little something spicy, as we did see last game. And if you can name that land that he does have 3 copies of, you will be the recipient. You'll be a winner that will draw from for that full year of premium. Again, Ben has a copy of a land that taps your colorless mana, 3 copies of it that allowed him to not commit any more threats to the board while adding to the power of his creatures.
So, if you don't mind me asking.
Yes.
What was the question that Adrian cobbled together that was way easier than that?
Oh, so Adrian brought up a question about an elephant that carries a hammer that is uncounterable and is a 4/4. He was wondering the name of it.
That one is easier, yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I thought you may agree.
Do you know this art or text box?
That is uncounterable.
Hashtag SCG
He actually
Premium.
said it was uncounterable, and if it's discarded, it comes into play. So he actually read the text box, said it was an elephant, and it has a hammer, and it's a 4/4.
So if you actually just typed the question into Google, it would hit enter, like bring up the image of Block Stomp Spider.
There's only one thing that it could be.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's a little bit easier.
Yeah, so I made mine. We were playing wiffle ball last round. I feel like we're playing softball, potentially on a tee this round.
This is slow pitch softball.
Yeah, I think
very slow pitch softball.
Yes, but we want you to have that year, so that's why we do it for you. Looking at the sideboards here, Reid is going to be going first this game, and I know these players are shuffling up, so we'll go over this really quickly for you guys. What do you see? What do you like?
I really like another Azorius Charm. I really like another Detention Sphere. I really like 2 additional copies of Terminus. And I think the 1 Pithing Needle might actually be fine because of Gavney Township.
Now, we saw Pithing Needle for Reid last match. Actually, he did something filthy with it in combination with Alchemist Refuge. Jonathan Job had played an Oblivion Ring on a Garruk Primal Hunter, and in response, Reid Duke activated Alchemist Refuge, cast Supreme Verdict, and then cast Pithing Needle And then Reid's like, yeah, Oblivion Ring resolves. Like, you can have. Oblivion Ring took out the Tension Sphere that was on Garruk Primal Hunter. And he's like, yeah, you can have your Garruk back. And there's just a Pithing Needle in play on it. And it's like, are you done? Like,
Yeah.
it was unbelievable. Pithing Needle also was shut down in Kessig Wolfrun game 2. So I think that we will see it again because Reid is able to get through his decks so fast.
Yes.
To be able to find his one-ofs. As far as on Ben's side, Patrick brought up Nevermore, and we are definitely going to see that here again. Between naming Supreme Verdict or Terminus, or man, we could even get a little spicy and name that Pithing Needle, and be able to stop some of the problematic cards here from Reid's deck. Also expect to see the 2 Sigarda Host of Herons come in. Wouldn't be surprised to see 2 more copies of Silverblade Paladin. And one that I'm going to bring up to you that I'm a little bit interested in, the 3rd copy of Zealous Conscripts. Do you think that joins us?
I would be surprised.
Okay.
Because Reid Duke's fairly permanent light. As you see him start off with a Temple Garden and a Nephalia Drown Yard into Farseek. Ben on the board on his first turn with a Forest and an Avacyn's Pilgrim.
I think there are times and situations where Ben can get himself into a situation where it forces Reid to cast that Thragtusk, and then Zealous Conscripts takes it and kills him with it. I don't know how often that situation does present itself, but it is something to keep in mind.
Yeah, I think that's why I think the 2 that he has in his deck are good, but I would be apprehensive about bringing in the 3rd one.
Sure.
Because I think the number of times that it's basically going to be, Bullshock Berserker for 1 more mana is fairly high.
Okay. As we do see here, a Borderland Ranger here from Ben, fixing his mana, helping him search for that Plains. We'll see what Reid, is able to come back with here on his turn 3.
Reid untaps. And trying to get a look at his hand here.
He does a nice job of hiding it.
Yes, well,
He always has.
nice from a card player perspective, but perhaps not nice from a commentator's perspective.
As we do just see a Hallowed Fountain here, and he does pass back. Not a significant amount of pressure on him yet. No real need to flinch.
Yes. He's got time. Ben also, in his sideboard, has 2 additional copies of Silverblade Paladin, which I can only assume were brought in for this game.
I think those will definitely be joining us as well. Ben, looking at his main deck here, he definitely has some cards that he can side out that are just not so good. 2 copies of Fiend Hunter, not really great. We brought up those Zealous Conscripts, and there are situations where that card is great, but there are others where it's very poor, as we see Borderland Ranger come across. So he definitely has some cards that are worth swapping in and out.
Yep, and that alone might be a good reason to be bringing in Zealous Conscripts.
Yeah.
Fantastic artists in the house.
Ben attacking only with his Borderland Ranger, Reid taking the hit and falling to 18. And now Ben, since he didn't attack with the Avacyn's Pilgrim, very obviously representing Restoration Angel here.
Yeah, I think so too. So you see Reid draw a card, and you see the way that he does draw his card, knowing that there are miracles in his deck. Looking for the old Terminus.
Yep.
But instead, we're just going to see old Thragtusk.
I assume this is going to be a Restoration Angel from Ben at the end of the turn, flashing out his Borderland Ranger and finding another land.
And you are quite the mind reader, my friend.
Some of these plays, you don't have to be a Magic Einstein to figure out what the path is going to be.
I just don't think you're giving yourself enough credit.
I've rarely been accused of that. But that's nice of you to say.
As we see, we do move over to Ben's turn. Restoration Angel in on the end step. We may see that Plains that Ben did search for, but it looks like he's going to think through his turn a little bit more.
Yeah, he just picked up another Restoration Angel, which is good insurance against a sweeper here, as he can just play a Restoration Angel at the end of the turn. I believe he also has Silverblade Paladin in his hand, which is pretty attractive to get on the Restoration Angel.
Yeah.
As you can just start attacking.
Presenting that clock, letting him pace the game in a favorable way.
Yeah. Silverblade Paladin, it doesn't take long for that thing to just be lethal.
No, not at all. That card it's a mean man.
You had your own green-white. You had your era of playing green-white humans a lot, right?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. It's one of the first decks I tried in this format, and there are some cards in that deck that are incredibly powerful, and Silverblade Paladin is one of them. As we do see Temple Garden be put into play, tapped here for Ben. Looks like we're going to go the Restoration Angel route again.
I would. It looks like we're going to be going with Huntmaster.
Okay. So he's going to open himself up to a Wrath of God type effect, be it Supreme Verdict or Terminus now, forcing Reid to again have it like we did in the first game.
Yeah, and I like the Huntmaster play here a lot because it means that he gets to out the next turn with more substance on the ground, and then his Restoration Angel can be used, if he so desires, to blink out whatever the Thragtusk blocks.
Okay.
If he just plays another Restoration Angel here, that's another turn where your Borderland Ranger and Pilgrim basically can't attack into the Thragtusk again. So Ben's trying to unlock some efficiency out of his Borderland Ranger and Absence Pilgrim, which are otherwise not really able to attack.
So, as we see Reid draw his card to move into the tank here now, deciding what he wants to do and what avenue he wants to take to get this game back in control. He's sitting pretty well. I mean, of course, being a 20 life and having a Thragtusk, but Ben's board presence is quite sizable right now.
Yeah, and it's not even as simple as, well, if I have Supreme Verdict here, I just play it. Because Ben still has 5 or 6 cards in his hand.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not... All right. So this attack from Reid of his Thragtusk pretty clearly representing a sweeper, or at least represents it enough that Ben is not willing to take the 5 points. And Reid plays a main phase Revelation for 3.
And you see that Revelation for 3 main phase so that it doesn't allow the Huntmaster and the Fells to flip. And it's an interesting play there by Reid because with the attack, it makes it seem like, yes, I am just going to, you know, cast a sort of mass removal effect after the attack. Let's just get this part over with. So Ben makes a block in such a way that Reid wouldn't get any value off of his Thragtusk. But because Ben makes that block, he takes away from his board presence, and Reid just says, oh, I don't have a reason to Wrath now.
Yeah, and if Reid actually didn't have a sweeper in his hand, that's a brilliant attack.
Yes.
As, you know, there's the odds that Ben blocks there are just very, very high. And if Reid knows that Ben knows this, then he can send in, knock off 2 creatures, and still have a Centaur to block on the way back.
Yep.
So.
Players, welcome to round 6. You had 50 minutes. You may begin.
Reid is tanking here. I'm not sure if he just saw a Terminus, but every time we had him on camera, he was never slow rolling. Yeah.
And there you do see a Terminus clear up everything here. Huntmaster goes away, and we do see all these things get cleared away now. So let's see what Reid's going to follow up with here.
There's an Augur.
Ben says that's fine. And Reid with a rare miss here with the Augur.
Yeah, his deck is awfully spell heavy.
A little bit surprised to see that happen.
There's an Overgrown Tomb. An Overgrown Tomb, part of Reid's, win condition or that path.
Yeah. That's the one that lets the Drown Yard get active, and we do see a Restoration Angel here on the end step for Ben. Ben going to start going back to Reid's life total. Funny thing about this deck, Patrick, is that Reid's deck, well, he does start at 20 life. It's almost like you have to take down 35 life during the game.
Yeah, certainly if you wait too long. And there's a Silverblade Paladin. And I assume we're going to be holding hands with the Restoration Angel shortly.
Perhaps a change in Facebook status there for the Restoration Angel. As you guys do see Silverblade Paladin on the screen.
It's complicated with Restoration Angel.
But they look happy. They look happy.
Reid taking 6 points of double strike damage. And again, Ben trying his best to induce these sweepers without losing too much of his board. That's as a renowned Kithkin player and Goblins player, it's all about trying to, all right, here's a couple threats. I have enough left over to beat your Wrath. And if you don't Wrath, this is going to kill you quickly. So that dance of number of turns you're giving them versus how much you're leaving yourself left over, a really important skill. And Ben's done an excellent job of watching him through the elimination rounds of sort of measuring that and sculpting that pace of play correctly.
It is a very, very delicate balance, as we do see a Force come into play here. Ben also does have a Champion of the Parish in his hand. One of the things that kind of throws a wrinkle into that game plan is the card that Reid just cast,
yes,
which is Sphinx's Revelation for 5, netting him 5 life and 5 new cards. It's a lot easier to balance things like that when you only have to deal with Wraths, but when you have to deal with this instant speed card draw, life gain card, it really makes you consider overcommitting to really, lessen the blow of that card in Sphinx's Revelation.
Yeah, it's a very tough balancing act. Trying to not play into sweepers, but not give Reid so much time that a huge revelation happens.
Yeah. So now we see Reid with a full hand now, something we've seen over the course of this top 8. Honestly, Reid has been having to manage his large hands properly, and thus far he's done a fantastic job of it. And you see Reid moving around his mana. Looks like we're going to see a Terminus here clear everything away yet again.
So we'll see how much Ben has left over. Reid at 11, so it's not out of the question.
And there's a Restoration Angel again.
That we could actually piece together 11 points over these next couple of turns. And Ben has actually just drawn Nevermore, which is pretty awesome here. With a lot of the Terminuses already played out of Reid, you might be able to name Supreme Verdict here, and, you know, it's possible Reid doesn't have a Revelation or another answer.
Now this is tough, right? And you see Ben hand on his head really thinking things through, because Patrick, it is easy to say to name Supreme Verdict because he hasn't cast one yet. So it's easy to name that one. But also Azorius Charm is an interesting name, and that's actually what Reid has. Ben could have played Nevermore, name Azorius Charm, and then suit up with a Silverblade Paladin. So he could have done something like that.
Sure. I think Ben's got to be thinking that the odds that Reid has another sweeper in his hand have got to be so high with the number of cards that he's seen.
Yeah. We see Ben thinking things through here. The only wrinkle in that game plan, now taking a look at Ben's lands, actually, is that he does not have 4 sources of white mana, Nevermore being double white, Silverblade Paladin being double white as well, so a brief oversight on my end.
Does not have, yeah, can't cast them both.
Yeah. And we are going to see a Champion of the Parish. He's just a little guy.
A little late to the party here.
And now we'll see Nevermore, and we'll see what Ben decides to name with that.
I would assume it's either Supreme Verdict or Thragtusk seem like the best names to me in this spot.
And he has decided to go with Supreme Verdict, so he is only having to worry about 2 more Terminus right now.
Well, and the 7 other cards in Reid's hand.
Yeah, you know, if you want to bring up the bad news.
Right. The bad news is he's got a full hand of cards.
I guess he also has to worry about that too.
Yeah, and there's Thragtusk. And now Reid really starting to take control of this game.
As we see a Farseek as well. Reid sitting to 16 life right now. Thragtusk representing 2 creatures being in the way. But there is one card that can help push through those in Ben's hand, and that is a Silverblade Paladin.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we have a long shot of something like Restoration Angel. You see, he's going to link up with the Champion of the Parish here and attack. But the ultimate plan here is to link up the Restoration Angel with the Silverblade Paladin. And then, you know, hopefully maybe you find a Gavany Township, maybe you find another threat card, and you can find a way to deal the last points to Reid here. But it seems this is a very challenging slog now for Ben.
Well, what you're going to see here is you see Ben, when Reid blocks with the Thragtusk, he ends up blinking this and then pairing those guys up. Where they weren't paired before, they are paired now, the Silverblade Paladin, and you're going to see Azorius Charm break this up.
But
so that's a beating of a turn there by Reid.
And it is hard to imagine any combination of spells Reid could really have here that allows Ben to still win. With more threats looming, you know, another Revelation, another Thragtusk could be in the works.
And we are going to see Reid here with another Farseek. So he only has a few cards left in his hand. We've already cast a few Sphinx's Revelations this game. So Reid, his Supreme Verdicts are off. The rest of his deck is on. We'll see exactly what he can find here. We know that he does have Nephalia Drown Yard in play. He can start going towards Ben's library, but Ben has a very large one, so we're not in that phase of the game just yet.
Yeah. But Reid has a very comfortable life total. He has a couple turns to you know, work here before he really has to start addressing this board. And Ben's deck, no burn, no real reach.
No.
You know, Zealous Conscripts is the only thing that can make the math tricky.
As we do see Ben come across with the Restoration Angel right away. Reid doesn't think twice. So there is no Terminus here.
And now we'll see Reid contemplate whether or not he wants to flash back to the Think Twice now, which is the obvious play, or leave it in his graveyard to give an option of possibly an instant speed Terminus at some point.
And we do see Natalia Drownyard activated, revealing Avacyn's Pilgrim, a second Nevermore, and a Borderland Ranger. Reid takes a draw step. It looks like Reid has another Natalia Drownyard. He only has a couple cards in his hand, Patrick. He doesn't feel like, you know, he's alive, obviously. His life total's okay. There's a Thragtusk in the way, but, you know, it feels like things are shifting Ben's way right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, a Zealous Conscript here would be huge.
Yeah.
If Reid is actually just flooding out.
And now we see the Champion of the Parish and a Silverblade Paladin here. So we've got Facebook relationships here like crazy.
Yep.
We have Restoration Angel looking to get in here for 6 points of double strike damage. Things are turning quickly here, and now you have to wonder exactly what Reid has.
Yeah, Reid not using the Think Twice. This must mean he has a Revelation.
Leads me to believe that's the case, and there it is. Ooh, doggy. And that's a 10 point. That's at least 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It looks like 10.
Sure.
That was a big deal.
It's a reasonable number of cards to draw here.
And life to gain.
Yeah.
Now here's what's interesting. We do know that Supreme Verdict is off. Reid has 4 of those left in his deck. He has 2 Terminus left in his deck. So there is a chance here that Reid still cannot clean this up because he doesn't have a Terminus.
I mean, we can still, we have Detention Sphere to get out from underneath that.
Yes, we do.
And this is what I'm assuming we're about to.
Yeah, and you see Ben move that over as well. So it looks like he kind of saw this coming.
Yeah.
And now he's moving his creatures to the graveyard.
He knows what's going on.
Just saying, "Look, man, are these dead yet, Reid?" As Reid is organizing his mana here.
Ben, a very cooperative opponent.
Yes. And we do see Reid take care of these.
Yep, my Nevermore's dead. Yep, all my guys are dead. That's fine. Centaur, that's cool.
Yeah.
Mill me a few times with your Drownyard. That's fine. Augur Bolas, sure. You know, I hope you find a Supreme Verdict. Blanks on that. And now we can really start going to work with the Drownyard.
Yeah, Ben is cardless, and this is very reminiscent of the last match that we saw when Adrian and I were covering Reid against Jonathan Job. Just, you know, the player playing the green-white aggressive deck was able to get a force on the table, and then Reid just cast these huge Sphinx of Revelations, untaps, and just like blow up this, blow up that, kill you, kill this. As we do see a Zealous Conscripts here from Ben off the top of his deck, taking the Beast token and in with both. They're kind of resigned to their own fate here, as we do see a Restoration Angel here from Reid blinking the Augur of Bolas. Another Supreme Verdict. There that goes.
Yep, my guy's dead. That's fine.
Give me my Beast back, untapped, draw. And what we didn't see actually during Reid's previous match, where he did defeat Jonathan Job, is we didn't ever really see Reid win via damage. It was always via the Natalia Drownyard or a concession. And now Reid is actually attacking someone's life total for once, as Ben does draw a card.
Yeah, assuming the other Thragtusk decks, you're usually trying to mill them out.
Yeah. And we do see a Huntmaster of the Fells here. And Ben does get his token, and he does get his 2 life, so that's something.
Oh yeah, he's right back in it.
Yeah, it's not nothing, as we do see Natalia Drownyard going to turn over 6 cards here.
We're gonna see the always compelling race of does Reid win through damage or decking first. It's gonna be close.
And we see a Rock's Faith Mender here from
man.
Reid. Big ugly. And Reid happy to get in here with the Beast token, saying, Ben, do you want a double block so I can take care of your Huntmaster or not? And Ben says, no thanks, just draw my card. Reid making things very, very difficult on Ben. And this is, of course, what Reid is looking to establish when he's playing this deck. We saw game 1, Patrick, where Ben just bum rushed him very, very quickly with Mare of Averbrook and other cards, as we see Ben conceding and moving on to game 3. This is exactly what Reid is looking to accomplish here.
Yeah, and now with Ben on the play, and why it was so important for him to, you know, to get that first game on the play, we really haven't seen Thalia at all. in these matches.
Yeah, we haven't seen it at all, which is strange.
He didn't show up in 5 games against Todd. Now, it's possible he took him out against Todd because of his Statcaster.
Sure.
So, possible that card was on the bench even though Todd's deck was fairly spell-heavy. You had to feel like if Ben has Thalia on the play with any sort of reasonable hand to back it up, that's going to be enough to take it out, take Reid out, because it means Reid can't Farseek on the second turn.
Yep.
It means he can't cast Azorius Charm on the second turn.
That's true too.
It means he probably has to play more of his Ravnica dual lands untapped, which is additional points. So you have to think Ben is really hoping to see that card in his opening 7.
Yeah, for sure. And it was interesting to me, and you know, I don't want to speak for you, but it definitely took me by surprise that the game that Ben won so far, he didn't even play, like, he didn't lead with Champion of the Parish, he didn't lead with Thalia, he played a Mare on turn 2, like flipped it on turn 3, and then played like a Huntmaster, and then just, you know, Gavi Township, and you kind of just went in like a pretty mediocre way to go about winning the game. You know, I expect the games to be won by either a very like fast blistering start via Champion of the Parish, or with Thalia really messing up Reid's ability to cantrip and think twice in Azorius Charm.
Yeah, if you got to watch Ben play against Todd in the top 8, he did a very impressive job of knowing how to sequence his threats in such a way to pressure Todd and force him to use sweepers while still leaving himself enough backup to recover from that, and to be trying to close the game out in such a way that Sphinx's Revelation wouldn't just KO him if Todd ever drew it with a bunch of mana.
Yeah.
And you saw him do that same thing in the first game, and he tried doing it in the second game. Reid's hand was much better and he was on the play, so it didn't quite end up working out. But I had to be honest with you, when I saw these top 8 deck lists, one of them stood out to me as, I have no idea what's going on here. And that was Ben's deck. Not, I don't understand how the deck works, but
sure,
how on earth do you justify playing this deck in a field where, you know, the other red decks have Bonfire the Dam, so you're really far behind there. And you don't have a particularly fast clock, so how do you beat these Sphinx's Revelation, Supreme Verdict decks, and so on and so forth?
Sure.
And watching him play so far in the elimination rounds, you know, you can see why the deck was a good choice, at least for him. He's done a very good job managing the game against these significantly more powerful decks, even though he isn't this blistering beatdown deck. When you look at the places where decks like Reid struggle, it's often to something like zombies. Very fast, homogenous, you know, a fast goldfish, a bunch of haste creatures. That's the standard recipe for beating ban control. Ben doesn't really have any of those angles. Really, his only haste creature is Zealous Conscripts. He can't kill that fast, even if he's not being disrupted. And all that stuff is the stereotypical recipe for a tough matchup against decks like Ban Control, or against the Blue-White-Red Flash deck, or whatever. But Ben's just been very impressive on camera today, at least in my opinion, of playing well against these significantly more powerful, stereotypically bad matchup sort of decks.
I mean, he's really done a nice job of, as you said, just pacing his games, you know, playing the cards to the best of his ability, just maximizing every draw step that he has, and, you know, not running cards into the opponent's tricks. He's done a really, really nice job of that every time I've seen him on camera as well.
Yeah.
As we do see both players shuffling up here for game number 3 of this 5-game match. Jason Reid dropping off a few waters to the players. Again, it's interesting because on the surface you think that this matchup would favor Reid and his ban control deck, especially after sideboard, but Thalia puts a huge cramp in a lot of things for Reid's deck.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see if Ben, who has access to 3 of these in his main deck and none in his sideboard, if he's able to draw one and maybe lead off with something like Champion of the Parish into Thalia Guardian of Threeban and give the beatdowns that way.
You have to assume Thalia is one of the, if you had to give a list of cards to Reid that he doesn't want to play against, that would have to be very close to the top, if not the top of the list.
And we do see a Knight of Glory, so that's not the 2-drop of choice.
Reid probably wiping a little sweat off his brow there.
A sigh of relief, as we're going to see a Farseek here. Yeah, could you imagine if that was a Thalia?
Yeah.
Reid going to be able to get his blue mana now via Farseek, getting a Hallowed Fountain. And Ben, you know, Knight of Glory does present a reasonable clock, of course, but the difference between that and Thalia is dramatic.
Yes. I mean, Reid would have just said go.
Yeah.
Instead of Farseeking for a 3rd land. I mean, if we followed up with something like Silverblade Paladin, Reid might just never get a chance to cast anything.
Yep. Now we see Ben draw a card here. We see A Temple Garden coming to play untapped, knocking himself down to 18. And we're going to see a Silverblade Paladin here. So he's going to get in for 6 points of damage because of the Exalted trigger. And Ben just getting right after Reid's life total, forcing Reid to have some sort of answer to this combination.
Yeah. We are putting a lot of pressure on Reid to have Supreme Verdict right now. And Ben's still with, I mean, he's got gas left over, you know? We can probably tolerate the one Wrath.
Yeah.
And Reid, if he doesn't have it, all right, there's Supreme Verdict. So Reid sort of passes the first test here.
Because we're going to see a Cavern of Souls here for Ben's draw step. Yeah, Ben really just put him to the test there of having Supreme Verdict. He did it. Now we're going to move on to the mid game.
Yeah. And again, you know, what if that Night of Glory was Thalia?
Yeah.
We actually might be shuffling up right now.
Yeah, for game number 4. It's just a huge difference. It's just how important that card is. One of the pillars of this archetype.
Yeah. And there's not a lot of decks that get to maximize it, you know what I mean? It's hard. You had to play a bunch of creatures, and you had to be playing white. It's not the easiest thing to do in this format, but here Ben is. Cavern naming Angel. Which is somewhat curious, as Ben is missing red mana.
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing. So Huntmaster of the Fells is kind of out the door right now for Ben. You know, interesting to see if how many he left in this matchup. We know he has 3 in his main deck, 1 in his sideboard, and we are going to see just 2 humans coming to play in Champion of the Parish and Avacyn's Pilgrim. So Ben rebuilding his clock.
Yeah, but this is way more anemic than what he had going on before.
Yeah. And Reid says, you can go and put those on the bottom.
That pause out of Reid was enough for Ben to just... It's like, yeah, I know what this is all about.
We are going to see an Augur of Bolas here from Reid. Let's see what that finds for him as he looks over his hand, and we see another Wrath effect in Supreme Verdict.
And Ben had Sigarda in his hand, but now that's considerably less effective.
As we do see Ben just pass the turn back.
There's Restoration Angel. That's got to be a good sign for Ben. You had to assume that if Reid had Revelations here, he would have played that Temple Garden on tap, although this is also a fairly awesome turn.
Seems like his deck is full of those, as we see Restoration Angel here, blink the Augur of Bolas, and it looks like he's going to get in front of the other Restoration Angel. We'll see a Mare post combat for Ben, and he's just going to pass the turn back. So many different things and so many different ways of attack for Reid's deck to be able to stabilize itself and start milling you out in the Value Drown Yard. It's hard to play around them all.
Yeah, and Ben, you know, a lot of his game is just his draws allow him to play a specific way, and he has to maximize that. He can't try to beat every card out of Reid's deck. He can't try to cover himself against every scenario.
As we do see at Hinterland Harbor, and we see Mare of Averbrook flipping. So he has a 3-3 and a 3-4 right now. Mare, of course, not going to be able to do a nice job of attacking because of Restoration Angel, unless there's a Silverblade Paladin incoming. Well, we are just going to see a Borderland Ranger.
All right. I assume we're going to be going and getting a basic mountain with this. So Ben has all of his colors accounted for now. But if Reid has a Revelation here, it's probably... Nope, we passed the test. Ben is still in the game. We have to slog through that Supreme Verdict, but he might have made enough of a board at this point that Reid's willing to do it. And there it is.
And it looks like he is.
So now Ben can follow up with his Sigarda and hope that it's good enough.
Yeah, hope no answer for that. And I think it was huge for Ben that Augur of Bolas, when Reid blinked it with the Restoration Angel, that it missed.
Yes.
If there was nothing there, I think that was huge for him. So we do see Reid draw a card, and it's not a Terminus. Okay, so let's see what Reid can do to stand up to this untouchable Sigarda.
He might have another sweeper in his hand, but I feel like we would have seen it. We would have seen it that turn. Silverblade Paladin. Best friends with Sigarda.
Is it not complicated with Sigarda?
No, this is just 10. This is not complicated at all.
Their Facebook status is clear. They are happy together.
Yeah.
As we do see Sphinx's Revelation now here from Reid. That one's going to be for 4. Putting him up to 8 and drawing him 4 cards. He does need to find that Wrath effect right now, because Azorius Charm is a card that will not save him.
Yep. But he's drawn a bunch of cards, and There's a lot of sweepers in his deck.
So we do see redraw card here.
Even something like Thrive Tusk would buy him another turn.
Yeah. We're going to see a Hinterland Harbor, and does he have it?
This is Terminus, yeah.
That is a Terminus. Damian Sandow strikes again. Puts it to the bottom, and we see a Farseek as well.
Yeah, Ben is now in a lot of trouble.
What do we have here for Ben? Ben, we just have a Mayor of Averbrook here. Ben, yeah, definitely in trouble now.
I mean, you could definitely have way worse cards here if you're Ben. You know, I mean, this is another card that sort of just demands a sweeper on its own.
Yeah.
But Reid's hand's pretty flush at this point, so you have to assume that if he doesn't have an answer now, it won't be too hard for him to find one.
The thing for Ben, too, is that Sigarda was nice because, of course, it did warrant a Wrath, but it was so nice because it dodged the Azorius Charm, whereas Mayor of Averbrook doesn't do that. And I think that's the big difference between, obviously there's a lot of difference between those cards, but in this position that Ben is in, that was a huge thing, I think, in this game.
Yep, and there's Thrag Tusk. Preventing the Mayor from flipping. Another blocker on the ground, more life. A little bit of everything that Reid could really use here.
So you see Ben draws his card for the turn. Reid going to take a look over at Ben's graveyard, see what he's working with down there.
But, yeah, Reid firmly in front now.
Now, as these two players do jostle on Patrick, an interesting question I just thought of, as we have seen these first three games for Ben without a Thalia Guardian of Thraben thus far, is there any merit to attempting to mulligan into that card? Mulligan aggressively when Ben is on the play for that card?
Not necessarily, though, because Ben was able to win the first game in the absence of that card.
Sure.
But it is definitely would make me inclined to keep a Fringe hand. Thrag Tusk in.
Uh-oh, Reid's attacking.
Yeah.
You can't be happy about that.
It's either bad for you or he's tricking you. It's one of the two.
Yeah, as we're going to see an Attention Sphere on the Wolfpack Alpha. Whenever I see Reid attacking with the deck, I'm just thinking to myself, oh no.
I don't know. Tries to flash in a Sunpetal Grove, but then finds his Restoration Angel. This is going to save the Mayor from a Detention Sphere.
We'll flip it back to its normal self. Let's see what we have here from Reid. We have a Hollow Fountain. He just passes the turn back. So Reid looks like he has either in between 2 to 3 cards in his hand right now. And we're going to see an attack here with Ben's Dorks. Might be in a bit of a racing situation.
Reid just took the hit.
Plays a Sunpetal Grove that he knew about, and now we're going to see a little mill here from the Thalia Drawn Yard showing you a Champion of the Parish, a Silverblade Paladin, and a Forest.
And we are untapping our Mayor, so no Think Twice, no Azorius Charm.
Interesting. Reid has 3 cards. Looks like he's going to draw up to a 4th one, not a Terminus. But he's still attacking.
No Restoration Angel. We saw the 1 copy already. Oh, this is Supreme Verdict. I'm willing to bet. Yeah.
That's what it is. Okay. So he clears up Ben's board. He is going to get himself a 3/3 Beast token. He's going to play Glacial Fortress and just pass back. Let's see what Ben is able to muster.
Ooh, is that Zealous Conscripts?
Looks like Zealous Conscripts.
If Reid is actually out of action, we got a game here. We have running Zealous Conscripts.
All right, we do see Zealous Conscripts here.
I can't see what the last card in Reid's hand is, or the last 2 cards, but Reid's given some indicator that he's just floating out here, you know?
All right. This attack puts Reid down to 3. We see a Thalia Drawn Yard activation revealing 2 Gavity Township and a Zealous Conscript. Reid gets his beast back. Now all of a sudden it feels like Ben might be able to take this one. Let's see what Reid draws.
This would be insane. I had Ben just dead to rights here.
So he plays a Hinterland Harbor, and Reid is not attacking. Ben draws his card.
I mean, we really need another Zealous Conscripts.
Restoration Angel would also be a fantastic draw.
Yeah, that would be
right
awesome
now.
here too. I can't imagine. I mean, does Ben have any spot removal for this in his deck? Unless he weirdly left in some Fiend Hunters, then no.
What do we see here? What do we see? Moving mana around, moving cards around. Nevermore is his draw step. Now that is interesting. What do we name here?
That is a great question.
Reid has played, I believe, at least 2 Sphinx's Revelations, potentially 3. There's glare in his graveyard, so we can't see very well, but he's played a few of those already this game.
I feel like maybe Azorius Charm is a reasonable name. We haven't really seen that many copies of here, and if Ben actually goes for an Alpha Strike, that could blow him up here. This is tough. I mean, oh, he's cycling Azorius Charm in response.
All right, Reid says, go ahead, name something. Now, Azorius Charm is a difficult card for Ben right now, but again, if Reid does Azorius Charm Zealous Conscripts to the top of the deck, that's the card that Ben kind of wants to draw anyway, so that's really not so bad for him.
Yeah. I'm just sort of projecting what card could Reid realistically have at this point, or that he hasn't played that many copies of, that if we naming Sphinx's Revelation, okay. I guess he anticipates this game going on for a little bit longer.
Yeah, I think so.
Which is fine. We see one Sun Pelgrove in Reid's hand.
Now we see Reid moving around cards here, and we are going to see a Rock's Faith Mender. A big draw there by Reid. Huge roadblock there for the Zealous Conscripts. Let's see what Ben draws for the turn.
Yeah, I mean, that thing can give him a bit of a cushion.
And now we just see an Avacyn's Pilgrim here from Ben, so not a great draw step here, but he does have to pass back. We do see 3 more cards turned over there to the Natalia Drown Yard. Reid untapping, has decent control of this game, but 3 life is not a lot.
Yeah, I mean, if he's light on action, just even something like another Zealous Conscripts could be enough to take it home.
Now we see the Faith Mender come in here, and now we see a Farseek here from Reid, but the Faith Mender does move Reid up to 5. Ben does block with his Zealous Conscripts because, again, it is only a 1/5.
Township would be a fairly big draw here. Restoration Angel, as previously mentioned.
Restoration Angel, huge draw here.
Even Knight of Glory would be fine.
Yeah, it'll let him attack.
Just anything that lets him trade with that beast or get off the table without having to trade his conscript.
Yeah. Game became a lot closer than I think we thought it would.
Yeah, I mean, this is insane, right?
Ben draws his card. How's he do?
I think it was a Cavern. I think that might have been a land.
I think you're right. It is a Cavern of Souls. We'll see what it's naming in just a moment here.
One on Angel. I had to assume the other one's just going to be on Human.
Sure. And it is naming Human. We see Ben turn over 3 more cards to Reid's Natalia Drown Yard. Reid drawing a card. Alchemist's Refuge. Now that is an interesting draw.
Yeah, I mean, Ben's playing pretty much just hand up at this point. You couldn't beat anything before, so nearly any one of Reid's powerful spells just kills him, so them being an instant speed doesn't matter too much. But yeah, just another angle for Reid as Ben draws another land.
You see 3 more cards getting turned over here. Restoration Angel and land in Natalia, Guardian of Thraben. Reid does draw his card.
You can see Reid here just with every Faithbender hit, pushing himself further and further out of conscript range.
And we see an island here for Reid as well. Still with those 2 cards in his hand. Ben draws a card. Ben draws a forest.
Yeah, and that's a lot of lands in a row.
3 more cards. There's Zealous Conscripts among them.
Even if Ben could just find another creature, it doesn't even have to be a particularly good one. Anything that would make it so if the Rock's Faithmender attacked, Ben could just eat it.
Yeah.
That would be totally fine.
Now we see a second Natalia Drown Yard. That's a crushing one there from Reid. As we see Ben draws, I believe, another Nevermore. That's the case.
Yep. Not a terrible draw here, but unfortunately, he's now trying to race these Drown Yards.
Yeah, and that's
the leg totals just don't matter that much anymore.
Yeah, that's tough to do. Now we'll see what he's going to name with that drought. Excuse me, with that Nevermore as he's going through Reid's graveyard. Ben got himself into a fantastic situation here and was just not able to draw out of it, as we're going to see 2 Drownyard activations here.
Yeah, Ben did a lot to push back there, but just had a little too much mana in his mid game, or late game, I guess.
So we're going to see Glacial Fortress. Reid going to give a quick count. Looks like we're under 10. We're around the 3.
Yeah, we have one more turn here.
And Ben draws his card. That's it.
Yep.
Ben Wienburg concedes game 2, unable to draw just that one more spell that he needed to be able to push through. So Reid Duke, 1 game away from becoming the Star City Games Open Los Angeles Invitational Champion.
And what an impressive run it would be for Reid. Got in 8th place on Breakers. The one person with his record to make the elimination rounds. Paired against Nick Spagnuolo. Consensus there, just a nightmare matchup. Finds a way to 3-0 it. Then actually gets a fortunate matchup in the semifinals. 3-0s it. And now, 1 game away from being a well-deserved Invitational champion.
It's been quite the run, but it's not over for Ben just yet because, again, we have not seen what we have needed to see from Ben, and that one thing that we need to see from Ben is Thalia, Guardian of Thraben.
Yep.
We need to see how it's going to affect these games, what happens when that card's in play, and how Reid is able to battle through it.
No, I mean, Thalia, I'm pretty sure Thalia on the play with reasonable backup, that's enough to get it done.
I think so, too.
But his draw that game was a little bit on the slower side, and he hasn't had, the first game that he won, Mayor of Averbrook put a lot of pressure on Reid, not only in terms of life total, but in terms of Ben being able to keep a lot of his threats back in his hand while Mayor did its work.
Sure.
When he's casting things like Night of Glory, even some of his more powerful threats like Hunt Master of the Fells,
Sure.
that stuff just plays right into Raz.
Of course, of course.
The best stuff that Ben can be doing in this matchup are things like Zealous Conscripts, Restoration Angel, setting aside Thalia for a second.
Of course.
Restoration Angel, the Mayor, the threats that kind of on their own demand a response.
Yeah, those threats let you pace the game.
Yeah. And in the games that he's lost, he hasn't really found those cards. He's been more on his Night of Glories and Hunt Master of Fells, the things that are just, they're only good if Reid's hand is very bad.
Yeah.
If Reid has a normal draw, those are unlikely to be much of anything.
And the way that Reid's deck is set up, he's set up to be able to beat those kind of draws from Ben's deck very, very easily.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if you couldn't build your control deck to beat Hunt Master of the Fells, you probably wouldn't be playing in the tournament.
Absolutely.
It's not like Ben Wienburg is the only person in this room playing Hunt Master of the Fells.
It's very, very true. Now, taking a look here at the sideboards once again, just very quickly, one card that kind of interests me now based on how that game is played, it's one I didn't think that he would board in, but now I think it's reasonable for him to, is Angel of Glory's Rise.
Yes.
He has 1 copy, and as we know, Reid's deck typically wins through milling his opponent. And there's no guarantee that he's going to draw that card, and it can't be milled away, but he can definitely set up a game state where he's kind of sandbagging that 1 Angel of Glory's Rise, and his Cavern of Souls do name Angel quite a bit anyway, so there's something that could happen there where he does return, all those humans back, some of them with haste, because some of them could be Zealous Conscripts. Just something to consider there. I think it's a card that I didn't think was going to come in beforehand. I wouldn't be surprised to see now.
Yeah, especially since Ben has, in his list, he has a plethora of sort of marginal cards that are pretty easy cuts. Yep. 2 copies of Fiend Hunter, 3 copies of Selesnya Charm. Yep. I mean, these cards just don't really do anything.
Yeah.
And the scenario that you're describing with Angel of Glory's Rise actually seems pretty reasonable, right? The game's going to go on for a long time anyway,
sure.
Right? Yeah, unless Ben just runs him out of the gym, in which case who cares?
Sure.
But if Reid is punching back at all, then yeah, we're going to be playing a long game, and that Angel could absolutely come up.
So it'll be interesting to see if we kind of see that. I know that Ben has won in some unique ways in this particular tournament. We saw in the semifinals how he was able to take Jace Memory Adept from Matt Ness 3 consecutive turns in a row with Zealous Conscripts to actually mill Matt out. One thing I'm sure Matt wasn't prepared for this tournament from a green-white-red deck. So Ben can get a little bit creative, and I think Angel of Glory's Rise, it would be very, very interesting if we see him with that in his hand at some point in the game, the way that he's able to go about setting that up.
Yeah, and I mean, how many games would you have to play, you think, if you and I were playing, where one of us is playing Matt's deck and one of us is playing Ben's deck, where we'd have 3 consecutive Zealous Conscripts milling the other player out?
Quite a few.
I mean,
Quite a
wait,
few.
you know, are we talking like thousands of games?
Yeah.
It's actually probably honestly thousands of games.
Yeah, where that actually is like a route to victory.
Yeah.
It's something that ends up happening. No, I agree with you. It was crazy to watch. It really was. And for Matt to be on the other side of it, you could see, as you know, they kind of shook hands in good game. It was just like, I can't believe this just happened to me. This is unbelievable.
Yep. We've definitely seen some pretty special matches this weekend.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that game, unfortunately, I wasn't privy to personally, but sounded insane. Adam Prozac with his, you know, inducing a surgical extraction of his opponent to
brewing a storm.
to get the tendrils up to lethal. We've seen Reid Duke on camera multiple times just play just masterful magic, quite honestly. And that's one of the nice things about the Invitational. It brings out the big names, and the matches we've had on camera, overall, I feel like the level of play has been pretty exceptional.
Yeah, it's been an absolute delight to cover, and we are not quite done yet, because after we do crown an Invitational champion, we have a Legacy Open going on here, a 9-round tournament. Players are here playing their dual lands, they're playing their fetch lands, they're casting their Deathrite Shamans. Some of them, Patrick, are even casting Garruk Relentless this weekend again.
Off of Scrubland, and oh no, sorry, that was Garruk Primal Hunter in Nick Spagnola's deck.
Yes.
Garruk Primal Hunter cast off of 2 of the 5 lands used were Scrubland and Underground Sea.
So we will be moving to that tournament just as soon as we do finish this one. We'll be crowning another champion this weekend. We do have a draft open winner, our second one, Alvin. I don't want to blow it. Alvin Sue is our winner here.
Congratulations.
He is our second draft open champion. We have one more to draft that's actually in our view over there. Some of the players who had finished up the Invitational and got knocked out of Legacy Open are battling away in our third and final draft open this weekend. So we have a total of 3 more trophies to give out this weekend.
Yeah, a lot of my friends are playing in that draft open because all of my buddies got messed up in the Legacy Open. I mean, AJ was 0-2. Who else? Ben Schwartz was 0-2. Drew Levin was 1-3. Actually played the 4th round and lost. What else? Just everyone I saw. Greg Hatch got defeated by an 11-year-old, I think. Who?
That's fine.
It was also hilarious too because the kid looked completely non-enthusiastic, like barely engaged in the match. Actually had his chin in his hand the whole time.
Just about giving the beatdown.
Yeah.
As we do see both players here taking a look at their 7 cards. This is a big point in this match here for Ben. These 7 cards need to be good. He cannot afford to lose another game. Don't think he can afford to stumble out of the gates. Ben probably thinking to himself, am I ever going to draw Thalia?
Yeah.
Ever?
And Reid just staring him down.
Ben going deep in the tank. He's going to take a sip of water before he decides if he wants to keep this hand or send it back.
All right, he's keeping. And Reid instantly snaps back with he's keeping too.
Let the games...
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Begin. Oh, it's a mulligan. All
it was
right.
a mulligan. Reid said he was keeping, though.
And the game will begin shortly for these players. Again, I think that Ben really... I don't think... You know, he's not aggressively mulliganing for Thalia Guardian of Thraben like you would for a Leyline, obviously. But, you know, I think it's worth taking a shot going to 6, hoping to run into that, you know, Champion of the Parish Thalia hand and see if he can steal one from underneath Reid.
Or even Thalia Silverblade Paladin.
Yeah.
Is there even a hand Reid can really get that gets him out from under that in time?
It's hard to.
It's very hard.
It's very hard.
So, Ben going down to 6 cards. Some chit-chat, but Reid very serious at the tables.
Well, Reid, you can see he can feel it.
Yeah.
He can feel it. He's got to get one more here, and what I think he would consider to be a pretty good matchup, a positive matchup. You know, not as good as his last one, where, you know, I think it would have been very difficult for Jonathan Job to win a game, let alone a match. But here you can see that Reid's got an idea that this is exactly where he wants to be, and he's got to get one more of these last 2 games to bring himself home a trophy.
Yep. Ben looking for a good 6. White mana, 2 lands, Thalia, 3 cards of your choice.
How'd we do? Uh-oh.
Tanking. You see Todd Anderson over there on the rails. Vanquished by Ben Wienburg in 5 games in the quarterfinals.
We're going to see a Clifftop Retreat, and Ben is going to pass. I see a Nevermore in his hand to go along with a Cavern of Souls and a Rootbound Crag. There's another Clifftop Retreat here, Cavern of Souls, and there's a Night of Glory.
Again, Reid dodging the bullet.
Now, it's of course not a bad start here for Ben, but it's not a great one as he does send in for 3. Reid does not have green mana right now. We do see an Azorius Charm here, putting that back on top. Let's see if Ben does have a follow-up play.
Well, I don't think he can play the Nevermore. Oh, he does have a basic plains in his hand. Okay. So he has Nevermore Restoration Angel in his hand, just not a great hand.
And then just lands.
Yep. And he has a Night of Glory on top of his deck, which is also not awesome here.
And we're going to see a Nevermore here. Now, this is going to be interesting to see what he names here.
I would probably name Supreme Verdict would be where I would err towards. But there's a lot of, I mean, Reid has a million awesome cards in his deck, so. All right, we'll find out. We'll get a spot on that momentarily. Spotter on the table recording.
As we do see Reid just play a Hollow Fountain and say go. Reid still without green mana. Ben does draw that Night of Glory, and we'll see if he's going to play that, and he will, as we do find out that Ben named Sphinx's Revelation with the Nevermore. Thinking that he can power through Wraths, but it's the Sphinx's Revelation and the card draw that he's not going to be able to beat.
Yep. Both of those choices are totally reasonable. I would never begrudge anyone who used a Nevermore on Sphinx's Revelation.
Absolutely. As we do see Night of Glory come in here for 3 points of damage. Reid still without green mana, it seems. No Farseek, no Thragtusk at this point, but he does have a Think Twice that he can flash back.
And you see, this is another, I mean, obviously I'm very big into verbal cues or whatever physical tells. You notice when Ben's about to attack and maybe there's an Azorius Charm, as we see Thragtusk here, Reid stops shuffling the cards around in his hand. Because you see a lot of players when they have a trick they're about to play or they're anticipating their opponent attack, they'll shuffle the Azorius Charm to the front of their hand. Reid gives away no information.
Yes.
You're just keeping his hand away from himself, not moving his cards around, you know, not allowing Ben to draw any conclusions here. So now Ben is contemplating that Restoration Angel at the end of his turn. I don't think he really has too much of a choice but to play it, because I don't know where else are you really going this game if you're not going to Restoration Angel.
So we do see.
Or we could just draw Zealous Conscripts.
Zealous Conscripts.
Okay.
Give me that Thragtusk. Get in there for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's going to knock Reid down to 12, and we do know that there's a Restoration Angel in his hand, so.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. All right. I like it, Ben.
Looks like Alchemist Refuge was Reid's draw step for the turn, and you can see Reid going into familiar place, the tank.
Yep. And, you know, he's got a ton of cards in hand. He's got a Thragtusk in play, but the threat of Zealous Conscripts occurring again is just got to weigh on you here.
Huge. Huge.
You know, there's a lot of players out there who have some tournament success, where if you ask other good players, they'll say something like, yeah, they're fine, or that player's okay, whatever. The respect and, you know, sort of the reverence that even the best players have for Reid Duke, there's no question that this guy is the real deal.
Yeah. We have another, what do we have here? An Augur of Bolas this time. Let's see what Reid finds here. Reid finds an Azorius Charm.
Does he have a 6th land to play?
He does in Sun Petal Grove.
Yep. So now Azorius Charm at the ready. That's going to cover him against a lot of the damage that a conscript could potentially do.
Yeah, a lot of stuff here it's going to protect him from. So we do see Ben draws his card for the turn.
He has a Restoration Angel and a Zealous Conscripts in his hand. He's got a lot. He's got a lot. A lot to work with here.
Putting up a fight.
So I guess the question is, do we angel and reset our conscripts, or do we place conscripts and attack? Oh, we're just sending in. Okay.
Now this is interesting. Looking like he's happy to trade here with a Thragtusk, or just let this Knight of Glory go up to the top. A little bit of surprise with that attack, as we do see Thragtusk bite the dust, trades with the Knight of Glory, and we'll see what Ben wants to do here. He does just play Cavern of Souls. We'll see what that is naming.
Probably Angel, I would guess. He has one set on human.
Yeah, sure. An Angel it is. And just passes back. Alchemist Refuge there for Reid. And it looks like he just passes back.
Representing perhaps the Instant Speed Supreme Verdict.
Or as you old guys call it, route.
Yes.
It is.
It's good and limited.
The old route with kicker. Oh, it was?
Yeah.
It was why?
Wraths are good.
Yeah. Instant speed wraths are better.
Yeah. It was no probe, but it was a high pick in that format.
Yeah, from what I've heard, few things are
No.
as good as probe were.
Not in that format. No way.
As we do see Ben here, looks like he's gonna pull the trigger here on that Restoration Angel.
So we're trying to do the end of turn shenanigans here, where we get to keep it into the next turn.
Yep, clear the triggers, and then blink that Zell's Conscript, so actually he'll be able to use it up until his next end step, is what it looks like Ben is attempting.
And then with the other conscript in his hand, I mean, assuming Reid doesn't have Wrath in his hand, we're looking at a lethal attack.
Yes.
Reid's
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I said just Reid contemplating a response here.
Yeah. I was just going to say, Zealous Conscript's playing a major role right now, as we do see a Think Twice here from Reid. Does draw a card. He's interesting.
Whoa.
He takes Alchemist Refuge was his target to prevent that instant speed wrath that you talk about.
Okay.
Now we're going to see another Zealous Conscripts here on the Beast token. And now Ben serves in with everybody. So that was an interesting play.
Okay. So this is going to knock Reid down to 3 if everything goes. I mean, we know he has an Azorius Charm. Augur Bolas can chump block. But Ben is still putting Reid to the test of you need a Wrath next turn. And you might not read low enough that now with Sphinx's Revelation turn off, a surprise Zealous Conscripts or a Restoration Angel at the end of the turn could finish the game off.
What's interesting here too is that yes, Reid does have a Azorius Charm in his hand, but
what do you want a Azorius Charm here?
Yeah, there really are no good choices here for Azorius Charm.
Your own Beast,
2
Conscripts, a Restoration Angel that's just a Conscript next turn.
Yeah.
Ben doing, everything he can really.
It's admirable.
Yeah, he's giving it his best shot here.
In what is perceived to be a pretty bad matchup for him, he is just doing everything that he possibly can to try to win this game. And we do see that Azorius Charm. Now, what is the target going to be? He's going to draw a card.
That would have been a good time for Terminus.
Wouldn't have hurt.
Wouldn't have hurt.
Wouldn't have hurt. Our intellectual savior here, Patrick Sullivan.
Yeah, I see all the angles. So we're going to see a chump block here, and Reid's going to fall. Yeah, Reid's going to fall to 3. Does Reid have one of his many sweepers? And even then, he's not out of the woods.
No, not at all.
Reid contemplating. You'd have to think that if he had... you'd have to think, given the pace of play that he's had in this match, that if he had an obvious sweeper to play here, it would just already have been on the table.
So he really just wants to figure out how he wants to have this turn. It's going to start with an attack.
There's got to be some... All right, now, almost certainly we have a sweeper.
And Ben is reaching for his creatures. As we are going to see
This is Supreme Verdict.
a Supreme Verdict clear everything up. So back to square one for Reid.
Ooh.
And now we're going to see a Rock's Faithbender. So that's one heck of a follow-up.
Conscripts, do we have it? Be a good time.
Ben draws his card, and it's not there. It's just an Avacyn's Pilgrim.
Nope. Angel of Glory is wise when you shabby here.
That would not be too bad at all. As we are going to now see an Athalia Drown Yard. Reid moves himself back up to 5 life. Ben draws his card, attacks in with that Pilgrim. And now we're going to see Athalia.
A little late to the party.
Not always there when you call.
Yeah.
And definitely not on time.
But at least that means if Reid's hand is like empty or basically sweepers, Ben can start cracking back for more than Reid's gaining off of that Faithbender. So anybody is a little bit productive now. And you see now Reid's just holding back.
Ben draws his card. Looks to be another land here. We're going to see a forest. He does just say goes. We're going to see we are not going to see an Athalia Drown Yard. We are going to see Farseek.
And then a turn Farseek off of the refuge.
Look at Reid. Reid loves that refuge. As we see him get that Overgrown Tomb to start the Athalia Drown Yarding, taking him to the Frown Yard.
Yep. Reid's been making very good use. This 4-color deck, a couple of colorless lands that have provided him a ton of utility. A big untap from Reid. Revelation still cut off.
He's doing a nice job of keeping his head above water this game. Quite a few cards in his hand. And remember, he can still break out of this Nevermore via Detention Sphere. So Revelation is cut off, of course, right now, but it's not cut off. It's, you know, it can still come back on.
Yep. And Ben again just drawing a lot of lands.
Taking a look at the graveyard. Not a lot of cards down there.
We see the Millen. Nevermore, Mountain, Sigarda.
Sigarda would have been a nice one.
Yep.
So just a land from Reid and says go. Let's see what Ben's able to draw this turn. Cavern of Souls in his hand. Mystery card.
Temple Garden.
Temple Garden.
Another Sigarda, 2 lands.
Ben may be thinking to himself, how about you don't reveal that Angel of Glory's Rise, please? I'd like to get you at that one. 3 more.
That's a Conscript, a Pilgrim, and
a Mayor of Averbrook.
Yeah.
That one not too important right now. As we see, oh, there's the second Drown Yard now. Ben draws his card.
Reid just, even with Revelations cut off.
We see Champion of the Parish and 2 lands go by. One of them, however, was a Gavany Township. That one would have been pretty good. Not great, but gives Ben something to do.
Yep.
While he's going through this Drown Yarding.
There's a Knight of... It's another anemic creature. Oh, it looks like we have a Silverblade Paladin in our hand we've been sandbagging.
Yep.
For maybe a surprise end of turn Restoration Angel, untap Silverblade Paladin, you're randomly dead.
Now we are going to see that Silverblade Paladin here. And it's going to partner up with Thalia.
So this is enough to trade with the Faithbender.
Cavern Unhuman.
Let's see. What's Reid's response here?
Reid reaching for his fun of in Alchemist's Refuge. We see Augur of Bolas. Gonna give Reid a little bit of info. That info is Azorius Charm.
I mean, it's definitely a representation of some weakness in Reid's hand if he's willing to use the Azorius Charm on the Thalia here.
I think so too.
doesn't really get him. It doesn't really get him anywhere.
And we are going to see a double block here.
Thalia now a 3-2 double striker, so Reid trying to put enough power in front to trade. So now Ben can actually just, if he wanted to, just first strike away the Augur and keep his Thalia, or get the Faith Mender off the table.
You are going to see Reid here mill Ben first, and now we're going to see that Azorius Charm. And the reason for that, again, and we saw this earlier, is that he wants to be able to mill Ben, but he also wants him to draw that card, that Thalia, because it doesn't have a large impact on the game.
Yeah, he's trying to keep Ben away from his big draws, so he's actually happy if he's drawing Thalia next turn. And you have to imagine that Reid can sense it's really close now.
So we do see a Hollow Fountain here from Reid. Then slams Thalia into play via Cavern of Souls, pairs up with Silverblade Paladin, happy to pass back, wants to move it along. 3 more cards gone. Don't see an Angel of Glory's Rise yet, assuming that it has been boarded in.
Thalia again.
And we're going to try this again. Let's see what Reid tries here. Reid is going to cast Think twice. So no Terminus there for Reid. Considering his options with his life total at 4. Still cannot cast Sphinx's Revelation. Still can use that Alchemist's Refuge if he needs to cast something really funky. But we do see a double block here again.
And we Drown Yard again.
I think we're going to see an Azorius Charm here again, Patrick, and
yep.
We are.
Reid paying the Thalia tax.
Looks like Reid has 3 cards in his hand as well. And we are going to see Ben look through things a little bit here.
You almost wonder if the odds that attack is productive, you almost wonder if it's worth Ben just not attacking at all, because then Reid gets to, and the threat of Azorius Charm means that Reid just gets to, he knows he's safe from Angel for 1 turn.
Sure.
And the odds that you attack him, 4 consecutive turns with your double striker, and Reid's just like, yep, couldn't beat it. It just feels so low to me that it's almost not. I almost wonder if it's not worth attacking at all.
As we see Ben cast the Borderland Ranger here. Reid, of course, put that Thalia Guardian of Thraben back on top of Ben's deck via Azorius Charm, and Ben decides to cast Borderland Ranger. Failed to find a land, but it lets him shuffle his deck so he doesn't have to draw that Thalia again.
Yeah. And if Ben has Ranger in his hand, then that obviously means the attack's just fine.
And we are going to see a partnership there between Silverblade Paladin and the Borderland Ranger. Reid going to cast a Farseek on the end step through that Alchemist's Refuge, that fun of.
And he finds another black source of mana.
So now we can start the double Drown Yards.
Yeah.
Really force Ben to draw super well.
Yes.
In this short window that he has left.
Please find your seats.
Reid untapping.
So many lands in play,
lands.
he has to kind of move it over towards his graveyard.
Yeah. Passes it back. Let's see what Ben's able to draw here. Can't quite tell what Ben's draw stuff was this turn.
Is it?
That's a ship.
Yep.
As we see Reid make a library count here.
Checking for number of turns. I think we're looking at Ben getting about 2 more turns.
Yeah. I think we're going to see a think twice here from Reid, drawing a card.
Players in $10 draft number 7, please rally at the side events banner to the right of the open stage.
And now we're going to take a little trip to Alchemist Refuge lands.
To the right of the open stage.
3 mana.
What do we see? We see a detention
Sphere.
And that
boy.
That had to be the fear for Ben.
Yep.
If he was ever going to find it. And you see Reid tap all that mana.
And there's the big revelation.
And Ben was hanging on, staying in this game a little bit, but now, Patrick, I don't know.
I think we've gone past the point of no return. And here comes a big untap.
Yeah, big untap. A lot of mana, a lot of cards as Reid draws his card for the turn, and the world is his oyster right now as far as what he can do. Reid looking over the board. We see a Restoration Angel here from Ben.
Pairing up.
He's going to blink the Silverblade Paladin and pair up there. Problem here for Ben, of course, is that Alchemist Refuge, as Reid does discard for hand size, that's the big problem here, even though Reid is at 16 because he gained double the life, double the fun because of Rock's Faith Mender.
Yep. That Refuge means Reid passing the turn. It's not necessarily light on action.
Oh, you think Reid has something?
He might have a meaningful spell or two.
After this round of the Legacy Open, we will be closing up our 8-man segments. So if you're interested in...
So you see this match has just crossed over into 80 minutes, a marathon affair. Reid moving that Alchemist Refuge, moving some things around here.
Legacy Open players.
A big pilgrim.
Yeah. Reid counting the number of cards in his deck. That's a terrible feeling.
Yep.
If you're Ben, it's a horrific feeling because you know that he couldn't cast Sphinx of Revelation for a little while, but now that the Detention Sphere is taking care of Nevermore, they're all online, and it's likely that he had some number of them.
Yeah. And remember, we're doubling up through the Faith Mender here.
Yes.
This is not even a normal revelation.
And it feels like a baby revelation there, as we only relevate for 5 by Reid, given to how many he could have drawn.
Yeah, I assume it's actually more efficient for us to just drown Yard Ben at this point instead of drawing another 14 extra cards or whatever he can do with his leftover mana.
There goes 3. There goes another 3 for Reid. Reid also keeping up 3 mana just in case he needed it for something. But you see a big untap here from Reid. A draw step. And considering his options once again as he does play a Glacial Fortress. I think it's only Angel of Glory's Rise is the out and out, Patrick.
Yeah. And even I don't
even
even know.
Then it may not be, because of the Alchemist Refuge, there may be no outs.
Yeah, I mean, we have instant speed Wrath at the ready.
Yep.
I mean, we got it all covered.
Ben draws his card, shows the Supreme
and there it
Verdict,
is.
and that is it. Reid Duke, good guy Reid Duke, 8th in the Swiss, is your Star City Games Invitational Champion.
And you can see, I mean, you can hear the applause there, of course. And like I said, Reid is extremely well respected. Even, he's, the pro's pro, whatever you want to call him.
Champion, Reid Duke.
Yeah.
As you hear everyone in the background, one word comes to mind when I think of watching Reid Duke play over this top 8 clinic.
That was he lost
clinic.
Exactly 1 game. Yeah. He was on the draw for 9 of his 10 games. Is that right?
Yes.
9 of his 10 games he's on the draw. 9-1.
Yes.
That is an incredible record.
Unbelievable. An unbelievable display by Reid Duke here with his Brand Control deck. It's been his pet deck for some time now. He's been playing it for, it feels like months. Ever since this format came around, and once Andrew Cuneo was the one testing this deck on his stream, Reid Duke adopted it. They added Elixir